allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This meeting has been noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for designations and removal of historic properties and districts. The commission also reviews proposed National Register of Historic Places nominations. The commission has final decision-making authority on certificates of historic appropriateness. We will make some, again, introductions. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Melanie Millar. I am the chair. To my left, I have Jason Crawley and Pat Sullivan. To my right, I have Anna Johnson, English Purcell, and Miss Donna Gardner. Also seated to my right, I have Commission Attorney Mark Bell. And seated to my left, I have Joel Evans, Director of Zoning and Planning. Mr. Evans, would you please introduce your staff?
Yes. Andrea Melisick, the Deputy Director. Tamara Avery will be presenting the subdivision case. Emily Piggott will be presenting the other case that we have on the agenda. Monica Eustace is here as well, and Wynn Carlisle. And Stephanie Ondo is here. She will be taking the votes.
I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones. The next agenda item is the approval of the minutes from the July 17th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion and a second?
Move approval. Comment.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Sullivan.
The paragraph that starts, Chair Millar opened the floor for public comment. It's about the garage that was on the agenda. And it says that the application has been revised to enforce the following revisions. Reductions of the garage's width and street-facing wall size. Some, how does it, garage's square footage to be proportionate to the existing home. So I think some square footage should be in here.
Staff?
I just have a question. These are minutes from what was discussed, so if the square footage was not discussed at the time, then...
I don't know, but here it says reduction of the garage's width and street-facing wall size, and you would think that leaves it totally open to what the developer wants to do.
Well, the developer is only going to be able to do what was presented in the presentation and the application. Were the square footages shown, Emily, on those applications?
Yeah, and we would be happy to add that in for specificity. Absolutely.
I'd appreciate that.
No problem.
So noted. Any other discussion before we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to approve with the inclusion of the comments that Commissioner Sullivan requested.
There's been a motion and a second. Will we please call roll?
Chair Millar,
Aye.
Vice Chair Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Purcell,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan. The ayes have it.
The next agenda item is HIST-09-23-00101, a request for a certificate of historic appropriateness. Emily, would you please discuss?
Thank you very much. As stated, this request is for a certificate of historic appropriateness for retroactive permitting of 2 accessory structures, one of which is proposed for relocation. The request also includes retroactive permitting for improvements made to the existing single-family dwelling. The TMS is 077000036, known as 1199 Frampton's Inlet Road, and it is a property listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The applicant describes that they are seeking retroactive approvals for 3 items. 1, an existing carport. 2, an existing portable shed they would like to relocate on the property. And 3, renovations made to an existing home. The applicant notes that none of the structures are visible from the right-of-way and that the property's historic significance is the ruins of Hepzibah Jenkins Townsend's Tabby Oven. Here's the location of the subject property when we're looking at the county as a whole. The subject property contains ruins of a historic tabby oven that dates back to 1815. Hepzibah Jenkins Townsend operated a commercial-type kitchen utilizing the oven and utilizing a part of her profit to then fund the construction of the Edisto Island Baptist Church. The archaeologically significant site was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in May of 1987. The subject property is Zone 10 and contained the Botany Bay Plantation Heritage Preserve / Wildlife Management Area. Properties to the north are zoned either AGR or AG10 and are undeveloped. The parcel is in the AE12 and VE flood zones. Here is an aerial view of the subject property. These are photos of the subject property viewed from Frampton's Inlet Road, as well as surrounding properties. And here is the site plan. So again, I'll go over the 3 aspects that are included in this application. First is the retroactive approval of the carport, which is located on the right side of the property. Second is the retroactive approval and relocation of the portable shed, which will be shown on the left-hand side of the property. And lastly is the retroactive approval of the house renovation, which is further illustrated in the detail on the left. This slide shows the as-built survey of the subject parcel. Here are the elevations of the home. Areas shown in red further describe the changes that were made by the applicant. Here are some historic images that were provided by the applicant of the home, along with several photos of before and after the renovations. So here are the elevations for the carport that is seeking retroactive approval, and a photo of the existing carport. Here are plans for the portable shed, which is proposed for relocation. And here is a photo of the shed in its current location on the subject parcel. The applicant did provide responses to all of the applicable approval criteria. Based on the applicant's responses, the applicable approval criteria may have been satisfied. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with the following condition: commission meeting, or the carport shall be removed within 30 calendar days of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Prior to today's meeting, we did receive 6 letters in opposition and 9 letters in support of this request. And we did, of course, notice this meeting as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. Is there public comment? We will now hear public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and your address before giving your comments.
Richmond Truesdale? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Reed Burgess?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Reed Burgess, 264 Ashley Avenue, Charleston, and the applicant. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Emily. And I guess the only thing I'd add to the comments or the staff presentation, the carport and the pre-existing shed, they were both there before we bought the property. And they're in decent shape. We'd like to make use of them just because they're useful, but we're not completely attached to them or anything like that. The house was pretty dilapidated. It was a painstaking job putting it back to how it is now. And I guess I'll just answer any questions from the commission.
Were not permitted originally, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, they were there before our time.
I mean, but they would never
But apparently they were never which we
permitted.
didn't know anything about.
Okay.
But here, county did come out, tell us to stop. We immediately went and did get a permit. Well, we called the number and then went in person. And we were not told about HPC or anything of that nature. They granted us a building permit at that time. Property was inspected at all stages and approved, ultimately with our final approval.
But you were aware that you needed a permit to do renovations.
We didn't know we needed 2 permits. And trust me, we wouldn't have done everything or gone to the extent that we did if we didn't think it was permitted properly. But I was pretty naive about this HPC thing. We didn't know about it. Actually, we received an email from the county when we were doing our diligence before purchasing the property, and they had told us we weren't subject to HPC, which turned out to be incorrect, but it wasn't even in our mind about this.
I'm aware that the home is not the historic element. The oven is the
That's right.
historic
The
element
oven
on
is
the
the part
property.
that's protected.
But I'm still kind of unclear why you didn't get the permits, and that's my, initially for the home to be remodeled.
We did. We went to this building and went to the building department, and they issued the permit.
Okay, so it's just a secondary part that you're talking about.
Emily, do you want to?
Can you expand on that,
Can you
Emily?
go through a little bit of the
Yeah.
chronology?
I could just clarify that building permits have been issued for the interior renovations and the board replacements.
I have a copy of it, but, we told them we were doing the new windows, the new sidings, exteriors, work on the steps and everything. I don't know if it wasn't processed correctly, but it was all inspected, and we were doing it in good faith.
Did you try to make a point to make sure the materials were comparable or the
Absolutely.
style?
We took, it was not only dilapidated, it had been kind of abused. It was vinyl windows, plastic siding.
Right.
We removed all that and replaced with new cedar siding, traditional wooden shingles, and really tried to preserve all the remaining original material from the interior that we could.
Well, you did, looks like you did a great job, so that's
Thanks.
not, my concern is definitely not that. Does anyone else have a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
When did the property get purchased,
In October of 2021.
and when did you get the permits?
It would have been January right there,
Okay.
2022.
Commissioner Crowley, have any other
No,
questions?
thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what is the history of the home? Does it have a,
Home has a fascinating history. I'm glad you asked. But it's actually not, the foundation is much older than the home, and that was really important to us to be able to keep this original Tabby foundation. The home was actually moved there in 1915 by people they actually took this house from a place called Salt Landing, put it in 2 pieces, brought it down on a barge on the South Edisto, and oxen dragged it down Botany Bay Road, put it on this existing Tabby foundation.
okay, so the Tabby Foundation was already there.
That was there.
And, okay, so
that
it was
was
just
there
a
for the same
foundation.
time as the. Well,
As
we're
the
not
oven.
sure how old
Okay.
that is, but yeah, and it's been there since 1914, 1915.
Okay.
So that's the only part of the structure that's really historic in nature. I mean, the Tabby Foundation, really, as far as,
Well, the house, yeah, we think the house might date from the late 19th century, the cottage, but it's not protected. In fact, before we purchased the property, we know everyone else who was interested in purchasing this property had intentions of trying to demolish the house, mostly because it's low and was in really bad shape. and it's not protected.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just for clarification, Emily, the only contributing resource on the National Register is the oven, not the house.
That is correct.
Is there anything left of where the oven, or is it just the actual location itself?
There's remnants of the tabby. It's very dilapidated. We've had people come out, experts, to look at it. We sought opinions from experts from Beaufort and from the University of Pennsylvania. There's gentleman Frank Matero, Dorothy Krotzer. We had Witold Ruczynski from the University of Pennsylvania. They visited the site. We also had people from the College of the Building Arts just to see what we could do about trying to preserve it, as it is a treasure.
Yeah.
And DNR came. They all kind of gave various different opinions, including building some kind of protective roof structure over it. But then other people said that that would detract from the
Original.
integrity of the structure. Basically, all you can really do is fill in some of the cracks with lime. But even that, some people said you really should leave it alone. And I should note that the rear part has collapsed. That happened before we purchased the property, despite what I read in one of the letters in opposition.
Any other questions for the
That's all-
applicant?
The renovation is stunning.
Yeah.
It's stunning.
Thanks.
Anyone else questions for staff or the applicant? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we got anybody else that's, not for this one, okay.
Second, then discussion.
Okay. Is there a motion or a second? Yes, ma'am.
So I have I have a question. I don't know who to ask it of.
Commissioner,
I was totally fine with saying yes on this until I read the letters that came in. And there were some letters that talked about getting a clearance from OCRM, and that has not been done yet. So I don't think we should move
Okay,
further on this.
I have a comment to make. I think that Joel can expand on that and probably maybe put your concerns to rest.
Yeah, as far as staff knows, there's not a OCRM approval requirement here because there's no work that's been done in the OCRM jurisdiction, which is below the critical line that I'm aware of in this development. What we did find out recently about the carport is that it happens to be located within the OCRM critical line buffer and setback, which, as Emily showed in her presentation, is going to require that either the structure be removed or the other option is for the applicant to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and ask for a variance for the current location of that carport. And we did speak with the applicant, tell him about that, and he hasn't decided which he will do, I don't think yet, but from what I understand, well, he did tell us that he would do one or the other. So that is the only connection to OCRM that staff is aware of connected with this development. OCRM does not sign off on these applications.
So question, if that's the case, and there were several letters who were against this and referring to needing OCRM approval, why weren't these people told? I mean, if the letters came in, somebody from here should have told them OCRM approval is not needed.
Did you speak to them, Emily?
Yes.
To the people who wrote the letters?
I spoke with Ms. Rice.
I'm sorry,
who-
I can't
I
hear you.
spoke with Ms. Rice, who submitted a letter, but it's not our practice to respond to each letter that we receive.
So what did you tell Ms. Rice?
That there was no OCRM requirement
Okay.
for them to sign off.
And Commissioner Jones, too, what I understood was that there's a possibility of this particular body of water, ditch, whatever we might want to call this, is a tidal body of water, so that's why I believe there is obviously the setback or the OCRM involved, but we're not even sure when this particular ditch came into play. Is that, and that's my understanding, that it could have been there after the carport was constructed, because it's, even though it is a saltwater title, obviously it was dug. So I'm not sure there's no, from what I understand, there's no relevancy to that setback.
I'd like to make a motion. Make a motion that we approve the retroactive permit for all three issues: the carport, the shed, and the renovations to the house, because they do not have a direct impact on the historic resources that are listed on the National Register,
And with the staff condition.
with staff conditions.
Do I have a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and now a second. Is there any discussion at this point? Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, I have a question about, so since it's mentioned that the zoning board should be giving some kind of opinion about the critical line, location of this building on the critical line, am I understanding that right?
Are you speaking of the carport? Yes. Yeah, and that,
So once we, if we approve it, then,
they still need to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
okay.
Per the condition
Per
that
the-
says, if the applicant chooses to keep the carport, then he will have to get approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals to keep it there because of that critical line setback and buffer in proximity to the carport.
So that if they don't give the approval.
If the BZA doesn't give approval, it will have to be removed.
Oh, it doesn't, so
No,
you
it
don't have
doesn't come
anything
back
else to
here.
do
No,
with it?
no.
Okay.
And the applicant has stated that you're willing to do that, is that correct? Okay. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and vote.
Chair Millar,
Aye.
Vice Chair Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Gardner. Commissioner Purcell. Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you for your time and your hard work. And I was just stating to some earlier individuals that I just finished reading the life story of Miss Jenkins Townsend, and that was really interesting that we happen to be talking about the very oven where she baked the bread and the products to make the Baptist Church mission rig. It's really a great story. Yeah, ahead of her time, exactly. Well, thanks again, sir. All right, this case is now closed to public comment. Again, at this point, it's the final decision has been made. If any person with a substantial interest in the decision chooses to move forward and appeal it, they may do so to the Circuit Court of Charleston County. Such an appeal shall be filed within 30 calendar days after today's date. Thank you. The next agenda item is SBDV-03-24-02725, a subdivision plat application presentation. And Tamara, we'd ask you to discuss, please.
Thank you. Yes, this is a subdivision application, SBDV 02725. The property is located at TMS number 583-0000383, and the applicant is proposing to take one existing lot and create 4 lots. So this is a map of the property and the future land use. The current zoning is S3. An aerial view of the property. Flood zone map. Site picture of the property. And across the street. And down the street, Habersham. This is a proposed plat that was submitted to staff. Again, the current zoning is S3, and it was subdivided under the S3 minimum lot requirements per the ordinance. This a section of South Carolina State Law 629-340, which gives Planning Commission the right to approve or deny subdivision applications. And Section 21-6A of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, which allows for the HPC to determine if it is consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. And this is a section of the comprehensive plan for the cultural resource elements. That was the goals, and these are the strategies. And there was no public input received on this application. And it was notified to 271 within the East Cooper Historic Preservation Settlement Community and Settlement Commission interested parties list. It was posted in the Post and Courier, and also signs posted on the property. And this is the information for the commission report that will be given to Planning Commission. And that's all.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. Okay, public comment on this.
Richmond, Truesdale? Okay. You could have stayed home. Katura, Stokes?
Hi, good afternoon. I have a few concerns about this plan.
Excuse me,
It happens,
Speaking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It happens to be along the entire side of my property.
Would you mind stating your name and your
Oh, I'm
address?
so sorry.
That's okay.
Katura Stokes, and I'm at 1748 Habersham,
Okay, thank
which is
you.
the property right beside that one.
Okay.
So, as it stands, the water when it collects flows in the direction of his property. If he raises his pad, it is going to completely flood me out. He has a plan for a berm, which will also encourage water to my side. There's a lot of water in the back part of my property that I don't utilize, that's just trees. That will also begin to flood and come forward. So a big concern is the flooding between the berm and the raising of the pad. He's in a flood zone, and I am not, but I will be if he puts a berm there. Originally, he had said to me his plan was to build 3. I learned from the sign that it's now 4, which means more trees gone, which means more water sitting. So that is a concern for me. The other concerns that I have are I have a very, very large live oak. It's probably 6 feet in diameter that sits almost on the property line, and I want to know how far past the canopy can he be actively working without hurting that tree. So I want to know if my tree can be fenced as far out as it needs to be undisturbed.
Okay. Is anything else that you'd like to add? Is that,
I would like to see some trees. I prefer there be trees between us and a berm, just because they will absorb more water. And just to provide continuity between the neighborhood. We all have trees between us. Unfortunately, the person who owned my lot owned his lot before he did, which is a realtor that I won't name, went without a permit, cleared 40 by 125 feet of my trees, and the county apparently had to deal with that. But so that leaves me with no natural barrier between me and now potentially 4 homes.
okay. I would ask staff, I think there's something that you could add to that, Joel. Are you,
Yeah, I
some
mean,
comment?
And I'll make sure Tamara's more familiar with it than me. I'll
Okay.
confirm what I'm. So if there are trees that are outside of the construction limit line that are protected, the surveyor is supposed to show those trees that are 40 feet outside of the construction area. And if there is a grand tree within that 40 feet, the root system of that
fenced.
needs to be protected. And Tamara, did the surveyor catch any trees that are off the site that we know of?
There's a 21-inch water oak that is right on the property line. I
Okay.
don't know if that's the tree you,
It's a lot bigger now. I believe the map you had of the trees is from like 1992 or 94. At least the one that I saw posted publicly.
no, so this is updated, and we have had our arborist go out to the site.
Okay.
So, if there's a one outside of the 40 feet that wasn't picked up, I can't speak to that, but,
And did the applicant say that he was building a berm?
it's, so part of the subdivision process is that you have to do a stormwater master plan for the 4 lots. So he is working with our Public Works Department with the stormwater. I know there is a detention pond, but it's not on that property line. It's going to be further. But let me just double check the construction drawings.
In the meantime, ma'am, just for reference, your
Yes.
property is the one that's immediately above it. Is that correct? On Habersham Road?
So it runs along. He's attached to me on the right-hand side
Right.
when you're looking at the plat map. My right.
Because
So
the Jacqueline Glover is on the
On the
far
right.
side, so she would have to be,
Nazario Paragano, do you know?
I think that's who owned the property before me.
Okay.
And then it changed hands
Okay,
again.
so you
and it
own
went
the
to Jay
property that runs
Satterfield.
the whole length of all the properties that are being created?
That's exactly right.
Okay, I got
So
it.
that's why if he raises it, it's going
I got
to
it.
completely flood me. So
Yes,
I need
I
some
got it.
sort of mitigation of water.
Yeah, and it's showing up on the plat as Nazario Paragano, and that was the
Yes,
previous?
that's exactly right.
and there is a tree, shown here as a tree canopy, right,
Right here,
right there.
yes.
So that is,
I'm seeing a 21-inch water oak.
yeah. Do you have any photos of the tree that you're talking about?
I probably do, but I don't think you would get the magnitude. But probably when Mr. Habersham gets up here, he could attest
So,
to how big
but-
that tree is.
Is it your opinion that the tree is on your property but close to the property boundary?
Oh, it's absolutely on my property.
that's
But
why.
yes,
We'll have to-
I'm worried that the canopy extends past.
Yeah.
And I just worry what will happen to the root system if he starts digging.
We can confirm, Tamara, we'll get Kyle to maybe go out there and look and see.
Can you
Yeah.
show the plat map?
Could you put that back up on
The
the,
plat one,
Oh, the plat.
yeah. Yeah.
And maybe-
That's why. It's just because it's not
and
showing
maybe,
up.
Yeah, but there's.
maybe if you could make that a little, I don't know, larger, so you can see what, show the applicant where the tree location, to see if that's the tree we're talking about?
Here,
It's
I
right there, and that little dotted square.
Yeah, it's a square, it's above your, it's
Yeah.
into your property line.
Yep.
She said something about 6 foot in diameter or something, didn't she?
Could be a humongous live oak on there. Let's go to the aerial and see if it makes it.
I don't know anything.
She's got so many trees, it's hard. Could be that one.
It can't be the same tree then. So are we understanding that's the same tree or not?
she's not, she doesn't believe it is. So again, the surveyor is supposed to pick up within 40 feet of the property line. It could be outside of the 40 feet. I can't answer that for the surveyor. And also in regard to the stormwater, they are doing a 15-foot private drainage easement running along the property line between her lot and the
This right here?
proposed lot. And then there is a drainage pond that it's going to flow into. So that is where the water is supposed to flow. So it's not supposed to flow towards her property. It's supposed to flow towards the drainage pond.
Posted.
And is that a cover? Is that going to be covered, or is it just going to be something that I have to spend the weekend edging? Is it going to be like a ditch, or is it going to be covered?
Pond, it's a pond, is it?
No, not the, but she's saying there's going to
Oh,
be
okay,
drainage all
the
the way
ditch.
down the side of my property.
You want to know if it's a pipe or an open ditch?
Yes, sir.
It's on the other side. I think it's an open ditch.
I think it's open.
Yeah.
So then I'll have to maintain that, which I'm not interested in doing.
You won't
You're-
maintain it. It will be maintained by the new lot property owners. They will probably have to put some sort of HOA in place because they also have to expand the ingress egress to a 50-foot wide right-of-way. So within the restrictive covenants that are recorded, it will say that the HOA has to maintain any private drainage easements and right-of-ways.
So then my other concern is, obviously, most people put up a fence of some sort, even if it's split rail fence. What side will that be on? And once fences are up, how will that be maintained?
That's not a part of the subdivision process, so I don't review that.
I mean, the fence has got to be erected. If they're going to erect a fence, it has to be on their property.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering where the ditch is, and if they're fenced in, how are they going to maintain it? I'm just worried it's going to end up being a bunch of
Yeah,
weeds
I understand.
that, you know.
I think that if there's a 15-foot drainage easement that's being dedicated to, is it being dedicated to the HOA or the public?
No, it'll be private, dedicated to
Okay.
a HOA.
Okay.
I would really rather see
It's a
something
requirement.
be a drain, like an actual tube or French drain, or not something that's grassy.
We can't require that. That's done through the stormwater review process with Public Works. And so they have to meet certain state criteria because Charleston County is an MS4. So they get approved for stormwater through Charleston County and also through DHEC.
Can she give her,
Yes, I think the best thing is for us to get your contact information
And you
us
discuss
try to
this.
discuss more in detail these
Yes,
things.
thank you.
And if it takes a meeting to show you how all of this works, with the trees and the drainage easement and all, we'll be glad to do that.
Okay, I
How about
appreciate
that?
it. Thank you.
Yeah, be sure you leave your contact information with Andrea or Tamara. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
does that give you some peace of mind on
It
that level?
does, it
Okay.
does, because I have a lot of water that collects in the corner, and he'll completely flood me out if he raises those pads, so.
Yeah.
It's understood. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone, discussion or questions for staff?
Are there any other public comments?
Oh, sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Habersham, sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
We got
forget him.
sidetracked. there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yep.
Richard Habersham, 2938 Bennett Charles Road. Hey, when y'all have that meeting, I would like to be a part of that because my family property is on the other side of her property. The Hercules Geddes estate, the direct on the other side of,
It skips hers and goes to the next one?
yes.
Yeah.
Is that approved?
So whatever affects her is going to affect my family property too.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Could you leave your name and address? And
I think everybody knows me.
Yeah.
Okay.
no,
I'll do
I
that.
mean, it's up to the previous speaker if she we can do it individually or together. Okay.
Yeah, we
That's
may
fine.
be-
Okay. We'll set up a meeting to meet with both of y'all.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also own the property directly across from this project. Ms. Stokes said most of the things I wanted to say because the biggest problem is flooding in this area. And I heard you say they could put it in a private ditch. The county and the state don't even maintain the ditches in this area. They have a private entity that say they're going to maintain it, and the state and the county don't even maintain it. I mean, but, I'm looking at problems coming down the line. Not saying that we don't mind them subdividing this property, but the biggest thing is the flooding, and he's in the flood zone and everything, and he's by a big ditch. It's true, and I want to know how he's going to, let this water run off of his property without flooding our property, because that's the biggest thing in Phillip right now. Is not the property that's here. Is when people come in and they elevate their property.
When we schedule the meeting, we're going to be sure we have someone from the stormwater department to answer the water issues for you.
Okay.
For y'all. Okay.
Another part is clay cutting. I mean, like I said, I own the property on the other side too. I cut a bunch of trees down off it at the small trees, but there are some large trees on that lot. Like Mr. Stokes say, that big oak tree. I remember that tree when I was a little boy. We used to climb on that tree and everything. But it's a pretty large tree over there. So it's how much of this property they're going to cut. Like the former owner, they cut, I think it was 3 large pecan trees and an oak tree that they got rid of. I mean, these was some huge pecan trees. So how much more clear cutting they're going to do on this property? Like I said, it's not about the lot size. It's how they're going to develop it and how they're going to maintain the stormwater and everything else on it. This is the biggest problem that we have in Phillip. And also, like I said, he did mention he was going to put up a berm up there. If you come in Phillip right now, Phillip Creek, they have a berm, and the people who live right by that berm, they have a problem. They have a flooding problem. When it rains, their yard get flooded out when the yard didn't. So the things that I've heard them proposing, it's going to cause a problem for us. And like I said, it's not about the subdividing the property, it's how they're going to maintain, how they're going to develop the property that I'm concerned about on this whole thing. And that's all I got on that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any questions?
It's up to you.
Mr. Habersham, are you finished, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you may. If you state your name and your address, please.
My name is Jonathan Ford, 2906 Canyon Lane. I want to piggyback the same thing with the drainage and the berm. There's a berm in Phillip Creek and on the back of Canyon Lane. Those are the only two in the area that I've known. And it kind of takes out the character of, how the properties were separated, before. Basically, there was either a line of trees that separated a property or you just let the bushes grow up. And now it's, with berms, it doesn't seem as friendly. Doesn't seem as I guess the characteristics of what the community was. And then the drainage is the biggest thing because now we have problems with water holding on properties that we never ever had before. Like we have to constantly call the state on one side, the county on the other side, so they don't maintain the ditches. So it's going to be kind of, it'll be a peculiar thing that if it's privately maintained. So those are the two biggest things I think that are a concern for us. Where does the water go? And berms and fences that kind of isolate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I speak? Because I didn't sign up because I got here late. I'm the applicant.
Yes, sir. Oh, well, you definitely should have signed up. But go.
Yeah, but I got here late.
What's your name and address?
My name is William Brodsky. I am the owner and the applicant of 1742 Habersham Road. I just want to try to clarify a couple of different things for everybody so everybody understands. First of all, when I first got there, I thought the berm would be a good idea because it would have given the neighbor protection from us because the guy did clear cut the property before we got there. There was a lawsuit for about 6 or 8 months where they brought the guy into the county after it was all said and done for 6 or 8 months. From the guy cutting down the pecans and everything else, they fined him $25. All right? I'm all for keeping the big trees. You can't grow that. You can't replace them. So I've met with Kyle a number of times out there. We've gone through what we're going to do. That large oak is not near the property line. It's not as close as she thinks it is. But we'll be happy to go back out there. I'll go out there with Kyle. We can meet her out there and figure out how to, work around whatever trees she's talking about because I don't know. All right, but there is one big one on our property. As far as the berm is concerned, I don't care. I won't do a berm. I thought it was a good idea. My whole idea when I've gone out there and talked to her a couple of different times, when the guy came in and clear cut the lot, there was a lot of standing water on her property line between my property and her property. All right? When I'm all said and done, I've offered her a number of times to clear out the ditches along Habersham Road bring everything. There's a large ditch along the east side of my property. If you look at the blue shading down there, it's like 6 foot deep. In the rear of the property, in the hatched area, that's where our detention pond is going. And it's all being done between my engineer and the DPW, Chris Wanamaker, to design it where the water is going to be held for a short period of time, and then it all drains into that very large cavernous area that runs between my property, then Jacqueline Glover's property, and then the other Glover's property in the rear. It runs throughout that whole area. So my whole idea is, first of all, I'm not raising the grades up to flood anybody out. When we come in there, you take the topsoil out, you replace it with the area that you're going to put the pad in for the foundation. The foundation ends up elevated, but not the ground. The ground still stays just about where it is right now. But my feeling is, and I've been building a long time, my feeling is, if I'm there working, I'd rather put a couple of dollars more into helping everybody out that's around me, all right, than to sit there and argue with anybody. And that's what I've offered her a couple of times, to go in there, whatever we have to do, to help her bring the water off her property, because it's ponding on her property right now. When we're done, the ponding problem that's sitting over there will be eradicated. It will all go into that large ditch on the east side of my property, and will all be taken away, and it's all being done right now with the DPW. It's all being done with the drainage, with Chris Wanamaker. All right? I will do whatever is necessary to help out my neighbors, all right, to make sure that it's a better project than when I came in there. I did not clear cut
Can I ask
anything.
you, Mr. Borowski, since we're meeting with Mr. Habersham and Ms. Stokes, would you mind being in that meeting as well with the stormwater folks so that all this can be discussed?
Love to. I'll bring my engineer with me.
Okay. When we schedule
What I
the-
do, though, is I would like to request from the board that I get a conditional approval from you
This
guys.
board does not have approval or disapproval?
No, I don't mean for that. I just mean on your jurisdiction, for the HPC.
This board does not.
They don't, they just determine if it's consistent or inconsistent
okay, I
with the
apologize.
comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
It goes to planning commission and they would
Right.
Gotcha.
determine.
Okay.
Right.
I think in the past, that was the way it was done, though, the way
Okay.
we made that decision. But
Okay.
we were just an advisory group on this subdivision part. Now, when you come back with a plan for the construction of the homes, that's a different story.
I'll be back.
Okay. Anyone, questions, applicant, while we have him here?
I don't have a question for him, per se, but I think that it is a very good idea for him to be present with everybody that has spoken, so that, you know, you can all be on the same page. And it's always good when, I think, when you're doing your construction, your new development, that you try to go along with what the people in the area, you know, who have been there a while, would like to see.
I agree.
That just makes good neighbors.
I agree. Though
Yes.
I've always done that. I agree.
I have a question and a concern. The young lady that spoke earlier, what was her name? Stokes?
Yes.
Stokes. Her concern is that the ditch, and that will be maintained privately through your HOA or through an HOA?
Yeah, we'll work that out with everybody, either that or the private. It's not a ditch. It's over the 15-foot area. It's like a 3-foot swale. A ditch and a swale are two different items. A ditch is deep and it's narrow. A swale goes over a large area. So what'll end up happening is you won't even see it. It'll be part of the grass of their backyards, and it'll pitch itself very gently toward the detention pond. So all the water that's running along the edge, her property will benefit from what we're going to do. All right, and Chris Wanamaker can explain that to him with my engineer. All right, it'll pitch all that standing water away from her house toward the detention pond, and then into that 6-foot, 7-foot deep ditch that they have there now. That's a ditch.
Yeah.
And that thing's deep.
Okay.
And just to let everybody know how we've worked out everything with everybody, and I've been through this quite a bit, we have given the DPW, out of the concern for maintaining that ditch, we gave them a 16-foot shelf, all right, that they can bring the machines in. And, you know, if they have to muck it out with the machine, they have a shelf to bring it along the edge off of our road, all right, to the right of our road, right? They have a 16-foot shelf that they can put an excavator there and muck it out if need be. So we've already worked this all out with everybody, with all of the concerns, especially for the drainage. You got to remember, I'm building 4 houses for 4 different property owners. I don't want to have any problems with them. I don't want any problems with any standing water. And I definitely don't want to have any problems with the neighbor. I'd rather put in more money so I don't have to go through that aggravation. I'd rather have my excavator with the design, with my engineer and the engineer for the county, be happy to do what they have to do. I'm here to work with everybody. I'm not here to say I'm not here. And I agree with you. It makes for good neighbors.
Thank you. I think that we're all aware of the concern of flooding, and I think that these people that have lived there a long time have the right, you know, they know.
I agree.
They've been there, they've lived it.
Just to let you know, I'm in an X zone. My flooding is an X zone. So I don't have flooding problems. All right.
We've seen no offense, we've seen X zones flood, okay? They flood.
Oh, no, I'm saying,
Okay.
hey, listen, any large area with a large
Right.
amount of water like we got recently will flood.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you're willing to work together. That's what we're all here for. All right. Any other discussion, staff? Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, this is where we will decide whether this is application for subdivision is consistent or not consistent. Is that correct? Based
Correct.
on a criteria previously established.
Oh, I did have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Since the area is zone S3,
Yes.
and he's putting 4 houses, how does that
He's-
go?
He has the acreage to meet the density.
So then, do you have to change the,
No, there's nothing changed. So S3 allows up to 3 dwelling units per acre, and this property is obviously over an acre. That's how they're able to get 4. Right.
And then again, as we know, he will come back in front of us again to discuss architectural design.
right?
Okay? All right, if there's no,
Make a comment.
yes, ma'am.
What are you about to do, Madam Chair?
We are getting ready to call roll to decide whether or not we believe this is consistent or not consistent with the criteria that have been,
I'd like to make a comment.
yes, ma'am.
I drove out there a few days ago, and the houses are all one story. They're either houses or they are trailers, mobile homes. Small houses, 1 story, small square footage, or mobile homes. This is going to be so inconsistent with what's out there. And I think it's absolutely wrong. Those are my comments.
It is my understanding that today we are here to discuss whether or not we feel that the subdivision application is consistent or not consistent, that we are not looking at building style yet. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we will be moving forward with that. I mean, but at this point, we have to look at the matter at hand. So that being said, if there is no other discussion, when your name is called,
actually
please
have-
state whether the subdivision
Madam Chair?
application. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I just had one question.
Yeah.
And I think Joel may have explained it earlier, but I'm just looking at the lot sizes, and at least 3 of them are a little bit over 12,000 square footage, but there's one that's 17,814 square footage. Is that part of it being consistent with the S3, or are they?
The S3, the density is 3 dwelling units per acre, so you cannot go beyond that 3 dwelling units per acre. The minimum lot size is 12,500 square feet. And so all of these lots both meet the density and the minimum lot size and the setbacks and the buildable area for the S3 zoning district.
Okay,
Yes.
The larger lots accommodating for the detention pond.
gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have another comment.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Commissioner.
I looked up some of the houses that are on that street, and the size property that they're on. And just the four that I made a note of, one was 1 acre. Another one was 0.86 acres. Another one was 0.78 acres, 0.70 acres. And the other one was 0.86 acres. So these lots are a lot smaller than what's already out there, so it'll be inconsistent.
Commission members, I'd like to remind everyone that today we are here to discuss the subdivision, and staff has noted that this plat meets both the density and the minimum lot size for S3 zoning.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
We're here to state whether or not we think this is consistent or inconsistent with the historic preservation comprehensive plan recommendations that are listed, not whether this is consistent or inconsistent with the zoning. Those are two different things. We're here to talk about historic preservation and that consistency.
Understood. Any other discussion or any other comment on that?
Well, I think that does say something different to me.
Well, I mean, we're,
If you're saying that we're looking at more, not at the zoning, being consistent with the zoning, but with the historic.
Yes, commission members, the task of this body is to make a report as to whether or not the proposed subdivision is consistent with the comp plan. Staff is merely stating that the applicant has met all the S3 zoning requirements for your knowledge, but again, you are here to determine whether or not it's consistent with 3.4.4, the cultural resources element.
so I'm understanding only 3.44. That's the only one we're looking at. We're not looking at 3.43, which is cultural resources, which says preserving the county's significant historic and archaeological resources and heritage. Again, based on what was stated by Ms. Sullivan and also Mr. Crawley, that this does not go with the cultural aspects of the types of homes or size of lots. So we're not to look at that. Is that
Why
correct?
would we not look at, it's what's before us. This is what was in our materials. If you go a couple slides up, we have
I know. That's what I'm looking at right
3.4
here.
and 3 point.
So we have 3.43, we have 3.44, and I believe we have two different, so it is inclusive in our presentation. So I'm assuming we can look at 3.43, is that correct?
You can forgive me for the number. I'm not positive of what the numbers are, but we are looking at whatever number is the cultural resources element of the comp plan and all of the subparts of that cultural resources element.
You need to scroll up, please.
It is right there.
Keep going. Right here.
So it is 3.43, if you could scroll up,
Yeah.
it is there.
I thought it was these that we're supposed to comment on.
Go one more.
There's one more, and that kind of goes along with Commissioner Sullivan and Commissioner Crowley are discussing. This is 3.43, and it's the one that's above, obviously 3.44, and it
Can
does.
you go to the other one, Tamara, the one that says 3, 4, keep.
There you go, right there.
That's the one that we're talking.
And they're the first bullet point. So it's part of our presentation or what we have to use as a tool. So that's what we're going by, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
the first one is basically just the generalized goal, which was more generalized. The other one are the strategies, which are a little more specific.
The previous subdivision applications that have been before you all have used the CR1 through CR15 to determine if it's consistent or inconsistent. And that is the report that we present to Planning Commission.
Well, I mean, speaking for myself, I just feel like I understand that this meets the S3 zoning. I get it. I understand that whole component, but I also look at the 3.43 and what our goal is, what our objective is as a Historic Preservation Commission, and I feel that there's more to this. And I know that we're an advisory commission, but I just believe that we have that ability. And I know that this is just we're just giving our opinion at this point. So I feel that we can all go from that point. Okay.
Agreed.
Because we're not going to make the final decision anyway. Okay, and if there's no other comment or discussion, I would ask that when your name is called, please state whether the subdivision application is consistent or not consistent, and please give us your reasoning based on the cultural resource element goal.
And either the goal or the strategies and that are enumerated that Tamara went over, not just the goal. But there may be others within the CR1 through CR15.
Correct, but-
Yes. The goal is on the first page.
Correct.
That's the generalized goal.
Okay.
Okay, and then strategies are after that. Yeah.
Chair Millar.
So I'm going with a not consistent. I understand that zoning has been met, and I understand also what our role is. I know that you will be making the decision, so I'm going with inconsistent based on 3.43. I feel that the cultural resource element goal, preserving the county's significant historic and archaeological resource and cultural heritage, is not being met.
Vice Chair Crowley.
I believe this is inconsistent and doesn't meet CR1, CR7, and CR13.
Commissioner Johnson.
I'm going with inconsistency here. And note the strategy under 3.44 CR1. We're not promoting the historic preservation.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yes, I also would find that this is inconsistent, and based on under 3.44, I would say it's inconsistent per CR1, CR7, and CR13.
Commissioner Purcell.
I too believe it is not consistent based on CR3, CR7, and CR13.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Not consistent, according to CR1, 7, and 13.
Oh, Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I add two more onto my CR1, 7, and 13 also?
Did you get that, Stephanie?
I did, thank you. So this board unanimously seems to find it not consistent.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, I would like to, since I'm first and I sometimes, have to go by my initial, I do want to stick with my 3.43 as far as the cultural resource element goal, but I would also like to add that I agree that the 3.44 CR1, and I also feel that CR7 and CR13 as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The Planning Commission will hear this subdivision plat application at their September 9, 2024 meeting at 2 p.m. in council chambers. Update on subdivision plat applications viewed by the HPC last month. Staff, could you give us an update, please, on that?
Yeah, I was just going to share that the Pocket Park subdivision was approved by Planning Commission. That would be in the Phillips community.
Okay.
For the Rutledge tomb.
Was that the only one that went before?
It was, yep.
Excuse me. If there is no further business, this meeting of the Charleston County Historic Preservation Commission stands adjourned. The commission will hold its next regularly scheduled meeting on September 18, 2024 in council chambers. Good afternoon.